Easy, boy. Hiya, folks. I'm John Denver, and I want to welcome you to our Rocky Mountain reunion. You're really going to enjoy what you're about to see because, well, it's more than just a television program. It's a really very special event. To explain it just briefly, here in the Rockies, there are a lot of animals that have just plain vanished, but not forever. Because what we've done and what this show is all about is we've reintroduced several of these creatures into their native homeland. We've taken a male and a female of some of the rarest animals in North America, and we've brought them back here where they belong for, well, like I said, a Rocky Mountain reunion. Today, we want to share the adventure of a lifetime with you. By plane and glider and pack horse, we're going to take you on an unforgettable trip into the most remote and spectacular wilderness areas of the high Rockies. From beneath the water of an icy mountain lake to the region of eagle and falcon, diving and soaring through clouds and canyons, we'll share the spectacle of this unspoiled country. And, along the way, some close-up views of some of the rarest and most precious creatures, those animals that have come to be known as endangered species. Many of the animals we will be seeing today have long been missing from the Rockies, victims of what passes these days for civilization. So our journey today is more than just a sightseeing tour. I hope you will share the excitement of restoring some of these rare and long-absent animals to their original homeland. I hope you enjoy this as much as I have. There are times in the high Rockies when it all seems uphill. One of those times I discovered is when you're lugging a pair of caged wolverines through deep snow. Look at her. Wolverines sometimes reach 60 pounds apiece, and these felt like real heavyweights to me. Of course, with my good buddies David Huey helping on the other end and Ernie Wilkinson leading the way and lending a hand, I knew we'd get where we were going. Ernie used to be a government trapper back in the 40s, and he knew exactly where we were going. He was leading us back to that spot in the Rockies where he had trapped his last wolverine some 20 years ago.
Well, it's not too much, brother.
Ernie was paid a government bounty for trapping animals that preyed on domestic livestock, and wolverines were suspect. So between the traps and poison bait, also set out for predators, it had been many years since wolverines had been seen in this part of the Rockies. Now, at least 2 were coming home again, if we could make it up the hill, that is. Ernie seemed to take special pride in helping return the wolverines to their wilderness home. Nobody knew better than Ernie the legends that surrounded these animals. The scientific name of the wolverine translates into gluttonous glutton. Indian devil and skunk bear are just a couple of the milder names the animal has been called. One 18th century Englishman wrote that the wolverine drops moss from tree limbs to lure deers into ambush. Alaskan Eskimos called him Kiwaharkus, or Evil One, because he plundered their traps with almost supernatural cunning. Along the way, a curious badger decides to investigate this invasion of his territory. His bow-legged, low-slung body gives him a comical appearance as he wades through the snow. As a fellow member of the weasel family, it may have been the scent of his cousins in the cage that attracted his attention. Like the wolverine, he is a ferocious fighter. There's not an animal in his weight class that can lick him.
Easy, fellas. We got all day. Fellas need a little help back there.
When Ernie let us know that we had reached the spot, it was a real relief to put that heavy cage down. Even the wolverines seem to know that their moment of freedom is almost here. A long rope is rigged to the cage so that the doors can be triggered from a safe distance. There's not a case on record of a wolverine ever attacking a man, but nobody seems eager to put it to a test, especially me.
It's about ready, John.
When the cage is finally rigged, Ernie gives us one last warning to give those critters plenty of room. You know, I couldn't think of one good reason to argue with him.
Have at it. When you yank that, John, be sure you yank it good. Let the them boogers go.
At last, the moment of truth. And what a thrill it was to see them head for the open country. We may have been wallowing through the snow, but they skim across the surface like they're airborne. Indian devil? Gluttonous glutton? Only a human being could be prejudiced or presumptuous enough to hang labels like that on an animal like the wolverine, or any animal for that matter. For in nature, there is neither good nor evil. There is only the instinct to survive. And each wild animal is bound to follow the dictates of his own instinct. With luck, these two will survive a harsh winter, and with the coming of spring will be drawn to each other to begin a family. Knowing this will make our trip home seem downhill all the way.
Let's go home, fellas.
As winter melts into spring, the changing colors, the sounds, and movements of new life signal the passing of one season into the next. These changes are also a reminder that the time is fast approaching for our next adventure. Together with my friend Lou Willie, we would head once again into the high country. This time to return two of the rarest and most beautiful of this country's priceless treasures. Leave me alone.
Well, John, it's going to be mighty cold walking through that river.
You know, Lou, that reminds me. I have a friend I brought up here from L.A., a fellow named Jerry Weintraub. He's never spent too much time in the mountains. I took him on a hike up to a lake, and he was talking about swimming at the end of the hike. I told him, you know, that water's pretty cold, Jerry. He said, I can handle it. His little boy, Michael, was along, asked how cold the water was. I said, Michael, it's so cold that sometimes when people jump in, it looks like the lake threw them right back out. Didn't say anything. We got up, and I went swimming for a while, and it was all I could do to stay in the water. I mean, just, you know, take your breath away, stop your heart. I stayed in the water as long as I could and tried to be cool about it, got out, and then challenged Jerry if he was going swimming or not. He said, yes, I'm going swimming. He jumped in, and I swear to God, it looked like it threw him right back out. And his little boy laughed. Oh, that was great. This time, our cargo is a pair of trumpeter swans. They're not nearly as heavy as a cage full of wolverines, but it sure is nice to have somebody else carrying the load.
Oh, that is cold.
It's hard to believe that when this country was young, there were so many millions of trumpeter swans that an overhead flight could darken the sun. But what's even harder to believe is that by 1935, we had trapped and killed and destroyed all but 73 in the entire country. And for what good reason were they sacrificed? Why? To decorate hats and trim dresses. So these are going to be the only two in Colorado, is that right, Lou?
That's right. When you consider that there are only 1,000 left in the entire U.S., it's quite remarkable.
Easy does it. Lou, you think these two will make the nucleus of a little family here in Colorado, huh?
Well, I sure do. And the remarkable thing is they mate for life.
Is that right?
That's right.
That's far out. Well, I'm going to see how this guy's doing over here.
How does he look?
Well, None the worse for wear. How long you been thinking about this?
Oh, since 1936.
Is that right? Although we have only about 1,000 here in the lower 48, we're blessed beyond belief in Alaska. In the wide open spaces of that great state, it's estimated that there may be as many as 5,000 alive and well. I even had the opportunity of seeing a few when I was last up there.
Let me give you a lift here.
Those guys weigh a ton.
Well, they're pretty heavy. Oh, they weigh 20 to 30 pounds apiece. You know, there haven't been any trumpeter swans in Colorado for about 100 years.
100 years.
That's right.
Well, I'm ready. Let's give them back. Well, let's do it.
All right. Oh, boy. You got yours, John? Oh, boy. Oh, what a beautiful sight. Hey. Gorgeous. Oh, boy.
Oh, thank you.
Well, thank you. This is about the greatest moment in my life.
Ironically, the same qualities that make the trumpeter the magnificent bird that it is have also been its greatest liabilities. Its incredible 10-foot wingspan and striking chalk-white color against the blue sky have always made it an irresistible target for the hunter. But in fairness, the hunter doesn't deserve all the blame for its near extinction. The overhead wires and cables that are so much a part of 20th century life have caused more fatal collisions than 100 holiday weekends. Unlike a lot of people nowadays, a pair of trumpeters mates for life, and they return year after year to the same breeding ground to raise a new flock of young ones. A century ago, the trumpeter's nesting places ranged from Alaska to Indiana, but drought and drainage and the exploding human population have destroyed or made them unusable in all but a few places. When the first baby swan, or cygnet as it is called, is hatched, the male takes it into the water. If there are other eggs to be hatched, the female stays behind on the nest. The family stays close together for the first 4 or 5 months until the cygnet is old enough to be on its own. Like most swans, the trumpeter has a strong sense of territory and will put up a big fight if an intruder appears on the scene. The sight of an osprey on the hunt triggers a whole series of reactions to protect the small cygnet. The first move is to not move, to freeze, to become as inconspicuous as possible. When the osprey continues to wheel threateningly overhead, one adult moves into the lilies as a diversion. The other goes to red alert, spreading its wings to protect and hide the young cygnet. The hungry osprey is not easily discouraged. Not until both adults are certain that the osprey is off to search for easier prey does the situation go back to normal. A centuries-old legend holds that a swan sings one final song as it dies. This swan song, as it is called, is most likely the sound made as the bird's last breath is exhaled through its long throat. With the trumpeter, we came dangerously close to hearing a chorus of swan songs. Hopefully, that tragedy has once and for all been put behind us. At the end of the Civil War, uncounted millions of bison, or buffalo as we call them, still roamed the Great Plains from Mexico all the way up to Canada. And then a gruesome slaughter began as ranchers and railroaders and hide hunters and meat hunters, who often took only the tongue of the animal, began slaughtering these creatures. In 1889, a census was taken, and we found out that there were only 541 of these creatures left on the planet. Out of millions and millions, only 541 remained. Some people saw the writing on the wall and got smart. They set up reserves where the few remaining bison could survive and live in peace, and as a result, they saved the species. Newborn calves are born a light red color. A fascinating defense against predators evolved over millions of years. To the color-blind predators, red registers the same gray color as green foliage. Against a green background, the calves are practically invisible. When the rutting season arrives, adult bulls begin challenging each other by locking horns in a test of strength. It never does much damage. One bull nearly always gives up before any blood is drawn. Finally, the heavyweight championship fight. The two biggest bulls, frequently weighing in at more than a ton apiece, come together to decide which will dominate the entire herd. Today, more than 25,000 live as proof that man really can save the vanishing creature if only he cares to. The last surviving colony of white pelicans in Colorado lives on an island in the Riverside Reservoir about 40 miles from Greeley. Like all white pelicans, they must have a secluded island surrounded by fresh water on which to breed and raise their young. And that's part of the reason why there are so very few of these birds left in the entire country. Too often, the expanding human population has crowded them off their island retreats. Anything from a sonic boom to a curious tourist can frighten the adults off their nests and into the air. Sometimes they circle for hours overhead, leaving their eggs and baby birds unprotected from gulls and other predatory birds. Drought and ambitious water management schemes have lowered the water levels around their islands to such a degree that coyotes and other predators have been able to reach the islands and devour the helpless young birds. Here in Colorado, where the water level has sometimes reached dangerously low levels, heavy equipment has been used to shore up the island and keep it separated from the mainland. If it were not for these protected nesting islands, it's very doubtful that the breed could survive at all. Adult pelicans have very few natural enemies, but the mortality rate among the young birds is so high that less than half survive to adulthood. The young leave the nest at about 2 weeks, and from that moment on, the adults do little to protect them. The adults spend little time guarding their young, but they certainly don't let them go hungry. The young are quick to learn where their next meal is coming from. Since the young birds mature so slowly, not even breeding until they're 4 years old, the parents will continue to bring them food for quite a while. The most outstanding feature of the pelican is the huge expandable pouch under its beak. Despite the old rhyme about the pelican that its beak can hold more than its belly can, it isn't used for storage at all, but to scoop fish out of the water. Pelicans may look funny waddling along the ground, but in the air it's another story. It would be hard to find any bird that flies with more grace or endurance. That's even more remarkable when you consider the weight those wings have to support. An adult pelican averages about 20 pounds. Pelicans also know the vulture's trick of catching an updraft and coasting for hours on the wind. They've been known to ride an updraft as high as 8,000 feet. Thanks to the people who help maintain the security of their islands, it looks like the pelican is going to be able to hold its own. Some casualties still happen because of the buildup of chemical insecticides in the food chain. If we continue to be more and more careful in their use, I think the white pelican will be around for my son Zach and perhaps even his children to enjoy. You know, I wouldn't go dive bombing in the Rockies with just anybody, especially in places so tight you practically need grease on the wingtips to get through. But when my friend Wayne Russell from the Colorado Division of Wildlife invited me to help him nosedive some very rare greenback trout into a remote lake high up in these mountains, well, that was an offer I simply couldn't refuse.
Cranks up and down.
The plane special holding tanks are practically full of fingerlings now, but we'll pick up a few more to top them off before we head for the lake.
Okay. I'll be right back. It is beautiful today.
Get all them little beauties dropped off?
They're great.
Going like clockwork.
There we go, last few in there. Okay, and the next installment.
That's so far out.
There you go.
All right. Thanks, Dad. Okay.
Thanks, Ed. There you go, Wayne. Get your toast, guys. 100 years ago, these greenback trout were in just about every stream in the Rockies. Then came the gold rush. People, pollution, and the introduction of more competitive species. By 1937, everybody agreed the greenback was a dead fish. Then came the 50s and a fantastic discovery. A very few greenbacks were found in a couple of national park streams. We've been given a second chance. And right away, another kind of rush was on. Guys started flying them up to some of the high lakes and dumping them out of buckets. And it began to work. Thanks to them and guys like Wayne, the greenback is coming back.
They're way back on us. Yes, it is today. Wayne, how many fish are we going to drop now?
Well, we got about 5,000 on this load, John.
5,000 one load?
5,000.
Is that the same for every lake you go to? Or?
No, it depends on the size of the acreage of the lake.
Is that right?
Right.
Now, I understand there's a real art to this. You have to be right where you want to be. And where is that?
Well, about 75 to 100 feet and about 80 miles an hour.
Why is that?
Well, if we were, say, 300 feet or higher, the fish would dry up before they hit the water. And if we're lower than that and too fast, the fish would skip on impact and they would kill them. So.
Well, that's it, right?
All right, get ready.
All right, you tell me whenever you want to go. I'm ready. Fantastic, Wayne. Good flyer. Well, Wayne, I'm ready whenever you are.
Okay, I'll tell you when.
All right.
In May of 1978, the greenback was officially taken off the endangered list. A tribute to everybody who cared enough to take that rare second chance and fly with it. This is the fastest creature. I'm talking. Are you through? This is the fastest creature ever to live on the planet Earth. It's a peregrine falcon, and it can reach speeds of over 200 miles per hour while diving on its prey. Although the peregrine has become alarmingly rare in recent years, it's certainly not because of bad design. Any bird that can kill its prey in a 200-plus mile-per-hour collision without losing a single pin feather itself has got to be a marvel of power and precision. The peregrine is so brilliantly adapted that even its nostrils have special ridges to break up the fantastic rush of air, enabling the bird to breathe even as it dives. Most of the blame for the sudden and recent decline in peregrine numbers must be laid to the insecticide DDT. It's been outlawed in this country since 1968, but many of the migratory birds the peregrine preys on absorb it in the food they eat in South America, where it's still in use. As the peregrine feeds on these birds, the poison is absorbed in such high concentrations that its eggs are made infertile or so fragile that they break before hatching. You know, it's things like this incredible bird which have caused me to take such an active interest in wildlife and wilderness preservation. Hey, that's my finger. Well, I know, but I don't care. In Fort Collins, Colorado, the State Division of Wildlife and Cornell University have teamed up to research the peregrine problem. With generous funding by the Audubon Society and 3,000 member supporters, outstanding work is being done here, both in research and restoring the falcon to the wilderness. The Division of Wildlife's man here at the Peregrine Falcon Research Center is one of the recognized experts in the field, my friend, Jerry Craig. Well, Jerry, I think it's a pretty fantastic place you've got here, sir. I mean, really incredible.
Well, did you ever hear how it got started?
Nope, only how successful you've been.
Well, there was this one gentleman, Captain George Whittell, who believed he was going to be reincarnated as a bird.
Is that right?
Right.
Well, did he think he was going to come back as a bird of prey, specifically?
Yeah, he set up a foundation when he passed away to fund propagation facilities such as this for birds.
Well, then, what you're saying is that this guy right here, I mean, this could be George.
You know, I'd never thought of it that way, John.
Is that you? Hey, is that you? Well, good work, fella. Thank you.
Open the door and take one out and show it to you.
The center's research laboratory is directed by Cornell University's Bill Burnham, a man who has devoted his life to saving the peregrine.
Got to handle the peregrine eggs very gently.
There's a little life in there.
Yes, little life. That's part of the future of the peregrine falcon in that egg.
Boy, that's something. Well, can we look at it? I mean,
Yeah, I have a candler over here. Why don't we go do that?
great. Boy, you really do want to treat these things gently, huh? You know, Bill, it occurs to me that you must feel like there's a small part of your life in each one of these little eggs.
Yeah, we do. It's actually more than just a part of our life. It's a part of the 3,000 supporters' lives that assist us in our project.
Look at that.
You can see him moving about in there, twisting.
The miracle of life is no less a miracle because it belongs to a bird. The man who holds one of these eggs literally holds the future of the peregrine falcon in his hands. The tiny captive within this egg will tomorrow be one of nature's true masterpieces, wild and free, ready to take its rightful place among the clouds. To put just one peregrine falcon back in the wilderness cost right about $2,000. But if the peregrine disappears, there's nobody I know who can build a new one at any price. Hey, Kathy, how long has it been since we've had otters in Colorado?
Oh, about 1906, the last one disappeared.
What happened?
Oh, water pollution, overtrapping, those are the main ones.
Were there other reasons for that? I mean, it couldn't have been just pollution.
Not only the pollution, John. About the mid-1800s, there were trapping around 1,000 each year.
Why?
Because of the fur and the fashion trade. And when that collapsed in about 1860, it was too late to save the otters.
Are they really as friendly as they say?
Well, it's not so much that they're friendly. They're kind of a curious animal, but like any wild animal, they can be dangerous.
I can't hear anything, Kathy. Along with 3 friends from the Division of Wildlife, we're about to release a pair of otters, extinct in Colorado since 1906. Do I have to do this?
Yes.
Okay. To put the problem in perspective, some historical film helps explain why they've been missing. When you think about the early day trapper, it usually calls to mind a rugged individualist who went out alone to wrest a hard-won living from the wilderness. Not so. Most of the trapping was done by huge groups of men who ran thousands of traps at a time. The demand was for beaver skins, but a trap doesn't know the difference between a beaver and any other animal unlucky enough to stumble into it. Nobody knows how many otters fell victim to the trap. We only know that the last otter in Colorado was killed in this same fashion more than 70 years ago.
A lot of weight.
They're playful animals, but like I said.
I ought to scare him to death in his outfit. I hope not.
You about ready to go, John?
No!
That water's cold, I know, but the otters want to get going, so
I can't
let's get
believe
with it.
I'm doing this. Give me a hand with these, please. Well, I'm actually real excited. I think this is great. And it's going to be cold.
You bet it's going to be. That water's probably around 50 degrees. Okay, Kathy, why don't you around there?
Okay, I'm ready. The reason the otters have to be released into the water is so that they'll recognize this spot and no other as their new home. In scientific terms, it's a form of imprinting.
There we go. When he gets that side, you move around to the back. Okay. Bring them out there in the deep water, John, so they'll know where they're going.
Feels like about 75 pounds otters going in there.
Yeah. Okay, little fellas, this is it. What are your new home?
Your new home in Colorado.
Looks good. Watch your fingers, John.
I hope the otters never forget this experience. I know I'm not about to. I'm not only imprinted, I'm numb. Whew. Otters usually go for slow-swimming bottom fish, but occasionally they'll zero in on one that's really fast, like a trout. If anybody ever bets you which can swim faster, an otter or a trout, don't put any money on the trout. Guess who's coming to dinner without an invitation? Otters are famous for their playfulness. Stealing somebody else's catch is all part of the game. Well, looks like these two have found a new home. What a thrill to be part of it. You know, that's worth an ice water bath any day. My friends in the Division of Wildlife tell me they're going to bring 50 or 60 otters back to the Rockies every year from as far away as Newfoundland, Oregon, and Wisconsin. The eventual goal is to have a stable population here of between 300 and 500. If they all like their new home as much as these two, and if lots of little ones come along, otters most likely will be off the endangered list by 1990. Through all the changing seasons, the high Rockies draw the earthbound eye even higher. Theirs is the irresistible invitation to soar above the region of ice and snow and see the top of the world as the eagle does.
I've been a long time on the highway. I've been a long time on the run. And it gets to be like chaos when I'm so long away from home. And sometimes it's just too much to bear, and I hide behind my eyes. I can picture friendly faces, and I can dream of friendly skies. And I guess that I'm the lucky one for the truth of what I know. For my heart is not denied me, and I have somewhere to go. I shall never be a prisoner to steel and glass and stone. If I leave, I will return again to my Rocky Mountain home. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy.
Come here, fella. All right. You like that, don't you, fella? Huh? This is Phoenix. He's a friend of mine, the golden eagle. You know, the golden eagles are doing pretty well in the United States now, but one of his close relatives, the bald eagle, is almost extinct. Now, what does it say about us as human beings that we could allow a creature as magnificent as this to perish? We can't do it. We can't. But most of all, we can't allow ourselves to become indifferent. It's not our world alone. We share it with a priceless and irreplaceable variety of creatures, all of whom have the same right to live as we do. And just as we share this world, we also share the responsibility for meeting any threat that comes to one of its creatures. If we stand idly by and do nothing while one species dies, it destroys not only that animal, but the best part of what makes us human. The death knell of just one species should be an alarm bell that tells us we're all in trouble. John Donne gave us the message more than 300 years ago when he wrote, "And therefore, never sin to know for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee." Thank you for becoming a part of our Rocky Mountain reunion. Go for it, partner.